everything easier. Yeah, if why have systems that are kind of, oh, look, everything's online, and then not use the system that's online to...
I mean, just rely on a piece of paper that's horrendously old technology. I mean, did they offer to let you fax a document through to see if that was
in the YouTube thing? Sorry, there we go. Right, that should be good now. Okay.
Well, telex,
yeah,
telegram.
Carrier pigeon just to the letter through.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you know, as someone who's like really interested in design and not just sort of the course that I've done is not just about sort of designing furniture or making furniture. It's about being able to apply, you know, those sort of like, I guess, like market research processes and like human needs. All those kinds of things need to be like considered. And so design stretches into everything. You know, in principle, the course that I did would enable you to like work in like, you know, like town planning or, you know, or furniture making. There's like a hugely wide, you know, variety of things you could do. Mobile phone apps is like a big one. You know, those have got to be designed properly. And when you look at these like online systems, they're still ultimately fallible. And one of the big problems is like, even though they design, they're pretty good now. They were a lot worse, like even just a few years ago. Like if you tried to do your taxes on the government website like 3 or 4 years ago, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. It's pretty good now. But the problem is when they do fail, and which they can do, there's no safety net. They have not thought that far. Do you know what I mean? It's like this, we've made this and this will work and that's it. But they haven't built in that like contingency.
It won't break.
Yeah. They need the plan B set up, you know, especially like, because you still have generations of people who can't get online so easily, like my nan.
Yeah.
So what you find is that she's ringing me up every day now saying like, can you do this on the bank? Can you sort out my insurance? Can you do this? Because none of it can be done online and she's not IT literate. So
yeah.
And there is that assumption. You get in schools. Yeah. My wife works in a school, and yeah, there's an occasion to have conversations with members of senior management. They go, oh yes, yeah, all the kids have got computers at home. It goes, no, they don't. Oh, but they've all got phones. No, some of them don't have phones. Yes. Well, if they've got a phone, it's a dumb phone. It's not a smartphone. Yeah. And some of them don't. Some people don't have access to broadband. Yeah. Yeah. All the they don't have homework diaries anymore. It's all online. It's all sort of an online system.
That's still
great if you're in school.
If you're like, you know, Bath, for example, the city that I live in, mobile phone signal is terrible in that city even now. And so if that's something that you're reliant on for doing your homework or sorting, you know, things out on your phone, then you can't do it.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. You have to, like, you know, you want to do your homework, you might have to go off and down the street or something, or out into the countryside a bit more, I don't know, to get a signal. So
yeah,
it's not like you can go to an internet cafe anymore either, because they kind of appeared for a little while and then disappeared when everyone else. Yeah.
But a lot of libraries have good online access now. But yeah, for a kid who's doing their homework, if they don't, the library might close at 5 o'clock.
Yeah,
and they might not get close to the library until 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when I set up this office, when I rented this office, so I had my workshop downstairs for a few years, and then when I rented this room, I think it's Vodafone who does our broadband, and it took, I think it was 8 months it took them to get the wire across to the building, which is ludicrous because there's like literally one next door. So I don't know why it was so complicated, why it took so long. I mean, I think it was connected after like 6 months, and there was like a further 2 months before it was like activated. And for that whole time, I was just having to use the hotspot on my phone. So I was like burning through data like nobody's business. It was wild. I was spending so much money on data.
Mm. Well, a friend of ours, Simon, who's been on the podcast before, when they dug up his street, Virgin Media, there was an issue with wayleave for his thing. So they basically came down one side of the street and then stopped before they got to his house. So it was an absolute nightmare for him to get broadband installed, just because it was like loads of hoops to jump through, and they had like one person's drive, and it was just to lift up a few paving stones to put a duct in.
Yeah,
it can be an absolute nightmare. All the hoops to jump through. We sometimes have to deal with it with work for new projects and things. And
I have to ask quickly: is there a mute button on this software that I'm looking at?
Yes, there is. Bottom
Where is
left.
it? Top left.
Yeah, right on the bottom.
Bottom
To
left.
mute
Bottom
to mute my mic, I mean. Oh, there it
Yeah.
is. I see. Oh, mine's on the
Bottom
bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Just because so my office is right next to the train station, and at this hour, yeah, about 9:30, they start to send all the freight trains through, all the super loud ones. So yeah, if one starts driving by, I'm gonna have to mute my mic. So
if you start sort of like doing that in your chair, then we know that there's one
yeah,
going
that's
past.
right. When the camera starts to rumble, you'll know when they're going by.
That'll be fun. We've had cats invade people's desks, and I think we've had sirens,
Yeah,
and we've had motorbikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Not
Yeah,
quite
motorbike.
planes, trains, and automobiles, but you know,
Hey, we're working on it. Who do we know
one at a
lives
time.
near to an airport? Or maybe we have to see if we can get Zyla Foxlin on, and yeah, she can do an interview from a plane.
There might be a slight concentration issue with that, I think, perhaps.
Yeah, if she's the pilot, particularly, yeah. Especially as she'd have to be at low altitude in order to get a good signal. Which is an interesting question then, because do the signals from mobile phone masts radiate spherically? So yeah, if you're above it, do you get as good a signal as if you're just in front of it?
You're the physicist. You tell me.
Yeah. I don't know. That's why I'm asking. It's an interesting sort of question, isn't it?
A
Yes.
physicist and a technologist walk into a bar and get asked a really difficult question by the podcast guest.
Design. Talk to us about design, Josh.
Well, what do you want to know? I mean, I'm not necessarily
everything about design. Yeah, everything about design. So your degree was, your course was design specifically, or design with furniture, or?
Yeah, my course is it's such a weird course. So it's called Furniture and Product Design. So principally, we're making stuff, or at least that's how they sell you the course. That's how all the students are sold the course. And then once you're on the course, then they kind of like pivot your chair and face you in a different direction, and they're kind of like, here's like design philosophy, and you're like, okay. So, you know, I didn't mind so much, but I could see the frustration of like other students who thought they were going to be like making loads of things. You know, I'm lucky I've got a workshop and stuff here, so if I felt that itch at the end of the day, I could just come back here and do that. But yeah, I mean, they teach you a lot of, yeah, you know, like it's all about like sort of critical thinking and user needs and market, like doing like there's loads of research to do, loads of research, experimentation, all that kind of thing, you know.
Sounds a bit like psychology.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those subjects which is, it's sort of, how do I explain this? I mean, like if you study to be like a doctor, for example, it's very specific what you're going to be dealing with. You're probably going to be worried about people's bodies, and that's about it. But design kind of like touches on so many things. Like there's psychology, and there's some philosophy in there. There's some sociology in there. There's you know, and there's also the technical aspects of things like materiality and factories and processes, and there's the environment, and it's just like this hugely complicated thing. Design and psychology are like two subjects where you can really like plant it on top of anything else. You know, like if you study psychology, you can be a psychologist by degree and then go into politics or marketing or, you know, this huge variety of things. So and design's kind of similar in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
definitely.
I think so. Design is a fascinating thing. I mean, I'm a physicist by training, and I guess particularly through my teaching career, I had to design things like worksheets or actually how a room looks in order to kind of maximize sort of students' learning. And it's sort of interesting to sort of almost tap into that psychology of, well, yeah, if you use these colors, it's going to have a different effect than if you use these colors. If you have 3-dimensional displays rather than 2-dimensional displays, how often you change things. Worksheets, the spacing of material, the choice of fonts, whether you're dealing with things with specific needs in mind, such as dyslexia, and using a dyslexic-based font. I think it's sort of fascinating, and it's sort of one of those sort of one of the things you sort of tap into if you have an interest in kind of sort of trying to improve. I think, a whole design of PowerPoint presentations. Yeah, so many really awful PowerPoint presentations. Just from the point of view of the PowerPoint slide deck, never mind actually how they're delivered. Yeah, it is an interest. Certainly over the last few years, where I've not been in the classroom, it's been much more sort of fascinating to me. And occasionally I dip into sort of books on typography or design. But then, I certainly find myself sometimes sort of looking at it and kind of going, "Oh, this is a swamp. This is quicksand, and I'm going to very quickly get out of my depth."
Yeah,
so
design can be tricky. Do you feel it's so easy to start? You can tie yourself in knots pretty rapidly. It's one of those things where, kind of like YouTube, I suppose, you sort of can't please everybody. Ultimately, you're designing for as many people as you can, or you'll be designing for a specific audience. You have to justify that. But it's easy to sort of for it to run away on you, and for you to be like, oh, but what about this? And I didn't think about this, and you can't think of everything. That's not your responsibility to think of everything, but do your best.
Like you say, it's understanding the end result of it. Like in 3D printing stuff that we do, hobby wise, you're designing from a buildability point of view, or economic material use, or strength in a particular direction, or things like that. It's there's that kind of design criteria. But day to day in my work, doing kind of design drawings for building services, it's from maintaining ductwork. If we put this access point or this access hatch here, can the person maintaining the ductwork actually access it? We've had kind of principal design drawings come in that we've had to rework and coordinate, because there'd be a plant room with some ductwork coming overhead that you couldn't put a ladder anywhere near to get access to. So that kind of understanding the use case, and then from a drawing point of view of making sure that the person installing it can look at the drawing and know what you mean, as well as just seeing pretty pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's all those things. Yes, all those things.
It's a lot more varied and diverse than just moving boxes on a web page or something like that.
It's almost. I mean, thinking about it, education. Yeah, there's always a debate of what should be taught in schools. Yeah, and what stuff shouldn't be taught in schools, because there is a limited amount of time, and you have to kind of think, what's important for students. And you get people complaining, parents complaining, particularly, or young people complaining, we weren't taught about tax. Well, you probably were in maths.
Right.
What you probably weren't taught about in tax about tax was things like how to fill out a tax form. But for most people, actually, they don't have to fill out a tax form. Most people don't. Most people, they work PAYE, pay as you earn. Your employer deals with it. And unless you're running your own business or side business, you'll never have to fill out a tax form. And if you've got those sort of the critical skills of sort of reading and literacy, you probably can manage to work out how to fill out a tax form, particularly if it's been well designed. Which always. But I mean, I personally think there are some things that aren't taught to all students that should be taught to all students, like number one, first aid. I think every student should get some first aid training every year, with kind of increasing level of complexity, as they increase in age, and as they've had more sort of practice of acquiring it. But critical thinking. I think perhaps elements of things like design. I think there are gaps now. Years ago, ICT was taught basic principles of, for example, Office and email and internet searching. I think sometimes that's now kind of gone almost by the wayside a little bit. We don't teach. I think nowadays, all students should be taught how to touch type.
Yeah, I think one of my friends is an IT teacher, and I think it's been a little while since I spoke to him, but I was under the impression that they were basically scrapping a lot of the IT stuff, because it's more
about coding now.
Yeah, it's sort of in the same way that you don't like need to teach the students to walk, like they're just going to do it naturally. Does that make sense? Like they're just going to, just by proxy, that it's going to happen for them. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's interesting.
It might be, how to convince your parents that it's an iPhone that you want and not just a smartphone, just in case you end up with Android. Or it seems to be this really bizarre kind of how to get the most out of the apps that you're using on your devices, rather than how to actually do anything sensible or useful.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say what they should teach if they're going to teach IT stuff is like. They probably should just keep teaching the stuff that they were teaching like 10 years ago, because now kids like don't understand. They can use the phone and the app, but they don't understand why it's working.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But 10 years ago you would, because you would have had to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? Like
or critical thinking for how to, if you've got a problem with your device, it's how to find out what's wrong with it and how to filter out the bullshit of what information is going to come up in your search results, and how to avoid going to the scam website and what's a real website to actually get your device repaired, or what type of question to ask, rather than grandma's big lengthy question into Facebook rather than Google kind of stuff that we've all seen in memes and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the trajectory of my understanding was like, like I'm young and it seems like magic, and then you kind of like do it in school and then you kind of know it a bit. And then now the technology is like zoomed off and they're not teaching you like why it's changing or how it's evolving. And now it's magic again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
There was a point where I was like, oh, I understand why this works. I understand, like, when I press this button, I know what the computer's doing inside to make that happen. Now I'm like, I don't know. Like, if this thing breaks, then I'm done. That's it.
The rate of pace that the industry's moving at, and the acceleration of that rate of progression. Even though I'm in that industry, I live in that world professionally. It's now reached the point of magic again for me. So there's stuff that I'm dealing with that I'm looking at that's witchcraft, and this is stuff that I need to support or fix or things like that. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. There must be some bit of hidden witchcraft somewhere that I can't access or can't see, or things are becoming more obfuscated to make that more difficult. Yeah,
it makes me think of that first Thor movie where he says to Jane, "Your people will call it magic, my people will call it science," and it's like it's somewhere in between. I think that's where we're at. Yeah,
I think as things become, I suppose for Andy, your kind of early days of computing would be things that were components you could desolder and replace in the computer, and then it's kind of our generation is more integrated circuits and cards that you replace rather than individual components. And now it's magic rock broken, swap out for different magic rock, please.
Yeah, for some reason I like my pickup trucks. Like if something breaks on it, I can kind of like lift the hood, and like if it's broken, it means something is leaking, or like there's a hole in a pipe that shouldn't be there. But now, if it's like a computer, and it's like now my car's stopped working, I pop the hood and everything looks fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
same, yeah.
So who knows?
And that's quite a big deal. I mean, you see that. Yeah, I mean, the classic example of that is the Toyota Hilux, isn't it? I mean, it's used by kind of guerrilla groups across Asia and Africa as a sort of in the sort of weapon mount system known as a technical. That those particular models of the Hilux are virtually indestructible. And
basically, the Hilux, the mission control are
because they're the versions that they operate don't have some of the complex electronics that you find in a European version. So they, when things do go a little bit awry, you can fix it with a bit of baling wire and a bit of duct tape.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same in the Southwest as well. My pickup truck's been duct taped for the past year, so still drives.
What was that about the Southwest, Jamie?
Yeah, I mean that's standard for that's normal for Yeovil, isn't it? In West Coker and
you're thinking of Steve's truck, aren't you? Yeah, and his Land Rover. Yeah,
I mean the amount of things Steve's fixed with cable ties and duct tape and baling wire and stuff like that. It's either Jim or Steve usually.
Well, that's the beauty of kind of being able to sort of think on your feet with certain things. Yeah, you can fix things with WD-40, duct tape, cable ties, baling wire. Yeah, it's amazing what you can fix. Yeah, with those items. Yeah,
it's the engineering flowchart, isn't it? With the does it move? Should it move? And it doesn't. Then you need WD-40. And does it move? And it shouldn't. Then duct tape.
Yeah. He's actually confirmed that he actually does use duct tape on his Land Rover a lot.
Pretty much.
I have a box in the back of my truck, and it's not like, it's not a thought through toolbox. I haven't been like, oh, okay, well, in case this breaks, I'm going to need this kind of spanner, and let me have a spare belt, or like I don't sort of conceive of it that way. For me, it's more sort of fun to like MacGyver it, and so I just sort of throw things in there, and I sort of like sometimes I'll take things out, but with no rhyme or reason. So like I think in there right now there's like about 100 meters of webbing. There's some duct tape. There's some like steel wire, like some dog poo bags. Like it's just like the box of all sorts. And then so if the car breaks, it's like, okay, here's the toolbox that I have to fix this with. And in some ways, it would be less fun if everything I needed was in the box. If that makes sense. Like it's more fun to try and like figure it out, get more satisfaction if you're like, I did it. Now we're driving again, and I use these weird things. I fixed it with a banana skin,
It's the ready, steady cook of vehicular maintenance.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, it was perfect for me. A few weeks ago, I was on the M6. My car had started playing up again, and pulled into the service station. And while I'm on the phone to the garage, I noticed the socket next to your tow bar for the electrical connection. It's just rusted. The bracket rusted, and this thing was just flopping around in the breeze just underneath the car. So while I'm sort of on the phone to the garage for the other end of the car, I'm trying to figure out how to MacGyver this thing. And some middle-aged dude just appeared out of nowhere next to me with holding a roll of electrical tape. He said, "I've always got this in the car. Looks like you need it." So I want to be that guy when I grow up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Do you want me to send you an affiliate link for some electrical tape? Yeah, so you can order from Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's certain items that should be banned from like your little repair kit for the car, which is things like zip ties. They should be banned because they make it too easy. Like they're too useful. So yeah, zip ties should be banned. Duct tape should be banned. Like we need to make it more challenging. People need to think on their feet more. It should be masking tape instead of duct tape. Try and make that work. A pair of socks. A few links from your bike chain. Just some sawdust,
This is going to be like the ultimate makers, kind of the makers MacGyvering kit, isn't it? It's just totally useless, non-connected, random crap to problem solve your way out of any situation.
I'm thinking, Jamie, something like Maker Central have a almost like a challenge area or a challenge event where there's something that's broken. And a couple of makers have got to fix it, and they've just got random bits of availability on whatever's in their pockets.
So I've been getting into reading some of the internet's writing prompts recently, and the Humans Are Space Orcs is a writing prompt I really enjoy, and it's it's sci-fi stories from the premise of humans being really weird creatures that we are compared to like any other sci-fi alien, in terms of resilience or weird feats of humanity and stuff. And one of the stories is exactly that, of this spaceship that had a human on board, and they'd ended up, kind of tinkering with things and taking things apart to see how they work and not putting them back together properly and causing havoc on the ship. And this, weird space captain from another planet had decided to have an item commissioned as a kind of a tinker toy for keeping this human occupied. It didn't do anything. It was just lots of whirligigs and flashing lights and spinny wizzy things, and kind of handed it to this human and just kind of can you repair this for me, please? kept him busy for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then all of a sudden he comes bursting into the mess hall, sort of startles everyone, slams this thing down on the desk, puts a cup underneath it, presses the button. He says, "I fixed your coffee machine." Chugging away and makes this brew. They're all sort of scratching their heads. It's absolutely the way of it. I think that's a really good idea, and it's Lucas mentioned something very similar as a concept. It's kind of some sort of MacGyvering kind of.
Make a central MacGyvering competition, MC squared.
There you go.
We could do it cubed and have someone on a microphone talking someone through it. Yeah, MC for MC's MC.
I used to set challenges like that when I used to work with kind of youth groups and the like, and with schools, kind of like, you've got to fix this. But you're not allowed to talk, and you can't see, so you communicate.
Hear no useful information, see no useful information. So.
Yeah, and stuff like that. It's always great fun to watch. Yeah, if the person's created it. Actually, I find stuff like that great fun to do as well. Just like how to sort of solve problems quickly. Yeah, and that's another skill I think should be taught more of in schools. Yeah, problem solving. In different scenarios. Yeah. I mean, it exists within certain subjects anyway, in certain ways. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important skills, one might say, about maths. Yeah, most people don't use most of the maths they're taught at GCSE. That's okay. But actually, what it does teach, and what's probably more important, is problem solving, and essentially how to generate an algorithm, how to go, which is kind of essentially a method of problem solving. So I think that's one of those sort of things that there should be more of. But I think to advocate repair cafes in schools, the kids have to do it. I'm not sure that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, what was your response from kids when you did those kinds of sessions? Because I can remember when I was a kid and we would have to do things like that. I just found it infinitely frustrating, and I'm like, this is stupid, and why are we doing it? And it wasn't until I was probably like 20 that I was like, yeah, okay.
They were fun.
Like it took
a long time. I think it depends on how it's. What's very important is how you frame it and how you build it up. If you just throw some kids in at the deep end with something that's actually quite complex, then they're going to get frustrated. But if you've started them off, if you've done it progressively, and you start them off with simple ones that are achievable, and whether you're developing things like teamwork or coordination of people within a team, there's different aspects to problem solving, then actually they can, I think, in my experience, if it's done well, young people get a great sense of achievement from having solved something. I think, but it can be done really badly as well. I used to organise outdoor kind of ed trips. That was one of the sort of things that I did kind of as in addition to my classroom teaching. And when we moved down here to Kent, not the first year I was here, somebody else was organising it. The second year I started organising it. We used a particular location, which I won't name, quite a big organisation. And it's a good facility. It's a residential facility. They've also got then, obviously, as well as kind of good quality accommodation and mess hall and things like that. They've got kind of high ropes courses, and they had a lot of activities that were also kind of not like things like the high rope courses. They had, they do things like here's a bunch of tires, here's some planks, get from A to B. Those sort of classic team building activities that get done on kind of management courses or just company organization, team building exercises, and they can be great activities. But one thing we noticed was that particular organization had a few, I say well paid, a few kind of permanent cadre instructors who had obviously had good qualifications, and they used a lot of young people who kind of left school, sort of 17, 18, 19, were sort of learning how to do outdoor stuff, whether it's learning the skills for how to operate a high rope stick. And the quality of some of them was not great at all. They weren't necessarily given. I think it's perhaps unfair that they weren't given perhaps proper instruction. Some of them didn't know how to interact with young people. Some of them didn't know how to deliver some of these. They'd been given almost like a briefing, and this is what this activity is, but they didn't really kind of understand it. And they didn't necessarily develop it. They didn't necessarily put things into a context. They didn't necessarily teach some of the skills that the young people might need in order to solve these things successfully. Because sometimes you kind of have to say, sometimes it's great. If you're an adult, you kind of, right, there's some planks, there's some things. All that area between those two bits of tape is lava, but the tires can float on it and aren't going to burn. But if you fall in, you're dead. And you've got to get from A to B. And there's barely enough room on the planks, and you've only got to get the entire team across, and you've got to do it in one go. Or you've got to kind of work out a shuttle system. And as adults, you kind of go, okay, well, we can work that out. And some people have had experience of it. But sometimes when you kind of hand that to a 13-year-old or 12-year-old, they kind of go, what? Huh? They understand the kind of the idea of, the ground is lava. We can appreciate that game. But when you kind of go, okay, you've got to get your team from A to B, and it's like, they don't have the skills. If you give that to a bunch of soldiers, they'd have it done in minutes, because they've been taught the skills of how to work in a team. They've been taught, they've had it drummed into them. They've had briefing after briefing on things like situation, mission, expectations, check understanding, etc. There's kind of a whole kind of gamut, and that was not quite correct. If anyone's listening and has kind of had military training, I did miss one out. But they've had that preparation. They've had that trained into them. They've had somebody kind of explain, right, this is how we do things. We have this system by which we can work as a team. And there will be somebody in charge, and there'll be somebody secondary in charge, and it's all about sort of developing that. And that over the course of many weeks of basic training is drummed into them.
Exposure, though, isn't it? It's that might be the first time any of these young people have been in that situation.
Which is why it's important to frame it. Why it's important to kind of give them maybe some basic skills. Maybe start them off with. It's almost like the way talking about kind of UI and apps. How a game. You get when it's sort of games. And,
the training levels.
Example. You start off with a kind of okay, right. You've just got to move this dot to the other side, and now you've got 3 dots, and you've got a line, and you've got to move it around, and you build it up till you get to the point where you've kind of got a screen that's
but you see, Andy, this is showing the limitations of your kind of your exposure to this kind of stuff, because quite a lot of young people now have had enough experience in one game that when they get the next menu in the next game along, it's the training thing, and they go skip, and then they get 50% through the game, and they go, how do you do that really basic skill? I say young people, myself included. I was playing the new Zelda game recently, and then quite a few hours into it before I figured out, there's actually this. If I'd have taken the path that most people would normally take going this way, I'd have been exposed to this particular skill that I didn't know I could do. And I went, that would have saved me a lot of hassle if I'd have known that at the start, several hours ago.
But that's the
not that it was a training level, but it was I suppose that is back to that kind of design of the user experience, or the kind of user interaction of whatever they're dealing with, whether it is a physical product, or the packaging of a product, or the use case of the end result itself.
Yeah, they call it human-centered design on my course. That's like the buzzword term for it.
The UI and UX in IT, there's always kind of a more fancy way of saying that thing that people connect with.
The thing, I mean, thinking about sort of design of course, and sort of just changing text slightly, but it's actually same with that sort of idea of design and prep. On your course, because you run your own business, did you have within the course, was there designed a kind of sort of section to say, well, if you want to run your own business, this is how you go about it? Or was the expectation this is just about design, this is about product, this is about materials, this is about user experience?
Yeah, you
You'll probably
do
all be employed by someone. So
you have one module where you kind of have to find an employer to work with for that module, and I think that's sort of done to encourage students to start practicing reaching out to businesses, and also I suppose in a cheeky way, sort of hoping that person will remember you in the following year when you go back and actually apply for a real job there. And then the other sort of path of that module is to figure out your own practice. But it's not. I don't know. I'm not sure it's something that's too well understood. I mean, not to super criticize the lecturers, but they're lecturers, and so they're not running their own business. Do you know what I mean? They've had that experience in in sort of a more commercial sense. But then when it's for yourself, they can speak to the design aspect, no problem, but it's everything else. It's almost like the person who does that module, if they decide to go down that route, they should be sent off to the business department for that module. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
Someone who's trying to teach you design can't then also make those decisions about your risk, because I think that's the other aspect of it, isn't it? Is that the kind of understanding the risk involved in starting your own business and that kind of risk management that goes with running a business. I suppose that's something that you wouldn't want to learn from someone teaching design either.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, there was an irony that I noticed whilst I was studying. I was an older student, and that was that I was on a design course, and yet I think it's fair to say that the course was in shambles for about 3 years at least. And I found that ironic because the course that is about design was poorly designed. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I always find that frustrating. And lecturers would say, "Oh, we can't do this, or this part of the module we have to move this around because it's complicated." And I'm thinking, guys, you're designers.
Yeah,
design it. Design the course so you don't have these problems.
Well, I mean, certainly as a teacher, curriculum design. I was going to say, was curriculum design something I was taught? There were aspects of curriculum design that I was taught. But I mean, I was teaching long enough to have gone through so many curriculum changes. New exams, whether it's GCSE or A level, new courses, that actually I had quite a lot of experience of curriculum design. At a subject level, I mean, there's a whole kind of another level of kind of your curriculum design in terms of offer at a school, and that's tricky. Then you're getting into finances as well. A lot, can we afford to have enough teachers of certain subjects? Can we afford to have a photography teacher as well as an arts teacher? And that's a kind of a whole other battle again. But you kind of hope that kind of a higher education, further education, somebody would have a good idea of curriculum design, especially on a design course.
Well, here's a question for you, Josh, because if you mentioned about being a mature student on the course, were you that minority in that sense, or were your peer group of a similar age? When either when I've done courses or a friend of mine was at uni for a game development course as a mature student, and one of the things that he'd noticed was the level of expectation that he'd put on himself was quite different from the level of expectation that the lecturers had put on the students as a whole. So whenever he was doing a project, he tended to put industry amount of workday kind of work into something, and would put tens of hours into a project that he felt warranted it, and then his peer group would put tens of minutes into the same project.
Was that something that you kind of faced?
Yeah, so I kind of I suppose I had like a bit of a hero's journey, I guess, like when I did my course, because in that first year I was like, hyper motivated, and I would be there at 8 a.m. School didn't start till 10, but I'd be there at 8, and I would stay like till 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, basically when they kick you out. Whereas the other students would come in at 10 and they'd like try and sneak away as soon as they could. And that was fine for the first year. And the first year of university, I actually found to be really super good and super useful. And then, so some of this is not the university's fault, because then we had COVID. And so that does make things more complicated, in fairness. But in that second year, certainly, I started to notice it's like, these lecturers don't know what to do with me. They know what to do with the students that are 18, 19, 20, 21, but they don't know how to deal with someone who's 30. There was another lady on my course. She was either in her mid 50s or early 60s. I can't remember, but she quit on the second year because she felt the same way. She's like, these people don't know what to do with us. And she said, like, this is ridiculous. I've had enough. And she just quit. I saw it through, and it wasn't until like probably that second half of the third year where I was like, why am I keep trying to like impress these lecturers. I'm trying to do my work to their expectation, and it just wasn't working because my relationship with them was not necessarily always the best. And so by sort of the second half of the third year, I was like, let me make sure that I'm happy with my work. Let me do it that way. And then I was back in at like 8, for that second half of the year. I sort of found my stride again. But there was a period of about a year and a half. I was like, what am I doing here? This is just frustrating now. And especially because it was online. And then I felt hamstringed because we'd be given challenges and we're all having to do stuff from home. And I felt guilty because I would come here where I've got access to all this. I've got access to everything, like 3D printing. I can do welding, woodworking, mold making, you name it. And the other guys are like trying to cut stuff up with like cereal boxes and scissors. And so I'm like, let me try and operate on the other students' level to keep it like a fair playing, like what's the place? like a level playing field.
Level playing field, yeah.
And so that was frustrating too, because I just wanted to like play with all the toys that I actually have, but I sort of felt pressure to like use cereal boxes.
And I think that's a real problem, I think, as well, for a lot of people in that sort of position of, if you've been in industry and then you go back to get the qualification and you're used to doing an 8-hour work day or something like that, as opposed to someone who's just kind of fell out of school into that course, and it's two very, very distinctly different worlds that you're trying to sort of cover in that sense.
Yeah, I think most of the people that I've spoke to have agreed with me in that. I've said I think that university should actually be for people that are like 22, 23 onwards, and not 18, 19, 20, because you just don't even have the context of knowing like why it's useful to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to do work for a few years, and then you go back to uni and you're like, I can see why this is useful. It's like you probably had the same trouble like in school, when you're trying to teach a kid maths. And he's like, but sir, I'm never going to use this. And then 10 years later, I'm like actually trying to figure out what that line is on that particular triangle. And I'm like, oh, I do need to know this, but you need the context. You need to hit it. It needs to hit you in real life. So you're like, that is useful. So when you go back to school and you're like, I'm glad you're teaching me this because this has come up and I didn't know what to do. There's like an arrogance to being a kid almost, where you're like, I'm not going to need this. Like, what do you know? How do you know?
Totally, absolutely, totally. And there's an element, I think, curriculum design at that level, what should young people be taught in school? Up to what age? Is just a huge discussion. Absolutely huge. And there aren't really any right answers. There are some wrong answers, but it's hard to actually come up with the right answer, because there'll always be certain people who will kind of go, no, we should definitely have critical thinking on it, and there'll be somebody else go, no, we should definitely have civics on it, and somebody else will go, oh yeah, we should definitely have ancient Greek on there, or the like. There'll always be some sort of certain priorities that some people have. And my example earlier, the very first thing I listed was everyone should have some first aid. It's probably because I've been watching the helicopter medicine emergency medical helicopter program for the last few days, binge watching that. I think it is. I think it is a critical skill. I think everyone should have that. Should be taught in schools. Because young people can save lives of people. It's not something that has to be done by just somebody that's a paramedic or an ambulance driver, or somebody that's got a first aid at work certificate in from their they work in Tesco's or whatever. But I mean it is tricky because young people go, why do I need to know about Battle of Hastings in 1066? And they don't appreciate that actually what they're not learning. Yes, they are learning about the Battle of Hastings in 1066 and learning up to, but actually what they're learning is analytical skills. They're learning about critical thinking. It just happens to be in that context.
That's been taught since 1067. That's the problem.
I'm gonna push back and offer some like a crazy idea that I had once, which is maybe we should be teaching kids less. Like just stop trying to teach them things and let them encounter the problems and being like, oh, actually, I wish I knew how to figure out what that triangle was, or I wish I knew how to do this, and then for them to be able to go and find the teacher.
It's not uncommon in the States. Certain areas have what they call PBL, project-based or problem-based learning. It varies slightly depending on where you are, who you're talking to, and the idea is that they do have problems, and it can be great. For some kids, that is absolutely the best way to learn.
They've got to want to ask the question, though. That's the problem.
That's true.
Yeah,
I've
got to have context.
Like they just stand there, and just look at me blankly. And I'm like, what? I'll ask them. I'm like, what makes you excited? So we can do that. And they're like, oh, I don't know. So it's okay. Well, you're just going to stand there forever. That's
But giving
them like teaching people to find what they're interested in. Maybe that should be lesson one.
or maybe what we do is we look at what all the whole sphere of human existence and what we all have to do. So like maybe talk about things that, like Andy says, with first aid, people get sick and fall over and have accidents and things. So that makes a lot of sense. And then other things that we all do, like we all have bodies and we all have things that we learn in very stupid ways about our bodies. Maybe we do a little bit more of like, I don't need to know which bits of a flower are which. All of the flour makes my nose itch. So why not teach me about my immune system and why it's annoyed at flowers rather than me having to learn that myself? I think there's a way of restructuring the information that is more useful to people to make people more aware that, like, all women have periods, for instance, rather than trying to not tell half the population that happens. And there's like all of these things that might be slightly more useful as subjects to teach people. Like you said, like critical thinking makes a lot of sense because then you don't have a bunch of people just walking around completely clueless, clicking random links in your email because, I've just won, the lottery for the 5th time today. I'll click this one as well.
Yeah, dude, I had so many Ninja air fryers waiting for me at Argos. I had so many.
Not to mention all the tablets that you've got in the emails and all of the single women that are all waiting for you.
And the iPhone 11s. The number of iPhone 11s I've won over the last few years.
And how many credits have we all got for Sheen now from all of those competitions we've accidentally managed to win on Instagram?
Yeah, it's funny actually because I don't know why or even what it is really, but I'm in this YouTube club. It's like a real thing. It's not just something that some people made up, like YouTube.
I've been wanting to ask you about that actually, because you've mentioned that several times in your daily vlog, and it's just like, what's this? I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much more about it than you do, which is super weird. But so they recently invited us to go to. So I think there's 60 people going to. I don't know how many people are in the club. I think it's in the thousands, but I don't know. But
did you have to pay entry and then get other people to pay you money to enter?
Yeah,
and then other people to.
No,
it's not fair.
It's okay. It's safe. But of the 1,000, I'm assuming thousands of people that are in this club, 60 of us are going to London at the end of the month.
Nice.
60 in America going to New York for some sort of YouTube creator thing. They really are keeping the details like super secret, even from us. So I don't know. But the email that they sent me was like, this is not spam. And I think what had happened was this is not like phishing, because loads of the guys in the club were like getting this email, like, come to London and do this thing, fill out this questionnaire. And no one was filling it out because everyone was like, no. Like, you know, it had like, because it had like red YouTube writing. And normally that's like associated, for me, that's like a scam email. Like if I see like bold red writing on an email, I'm like, they want my bank details, you know? And so I think they were like, oh, this is going to be great. Everyone's going to come to this like YouTube event and it's going to be really exciting. And then like no one replied to the RSVP. And they were like, this is legit. This is actually legit. You're going. Yeah. This is going to be really embarrassing, this podcast in retrospective at the end of the month. I've got like no money in my bank account. And, and they got me hook, line and sinker. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going.
You know, you'll at least be on good terms with the Nigerian prince. And,
right. Yeah.
You know, all of those, you know, those parcels that'll be on the way. And
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets taxed of foreign exchange brokers as well. That's the other one that kind of. I tell you what I get a lot of on Instagram is people going, we've seen your account. We absolutely love your account. We think you'd be a great fit. Yes, yeah, I had that one yesterday. Yeah, Gothic jewelry or sunglasses or what was the other one I had recently? And it was just like, the one I've had a few times is kind of yoga pants for women.
Right.
Have you actually looked at my account?
With your ass, Andy, I can see it.
I know I could get away with it. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, I don't really do yoga. And pulling on tight leggings like that, it's not good for my back. I need easy fit. I don't need tight lycra.
Not since the accident.
I mean, this club does sound fascinating. How did you end up in it? I mean, how did?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Well, yeah, I guess YouTube got your email address, so I guess they just kind of emailed you and gone, "You're in the club." Yeah,
they just sent me this email and they're like, "You're in this club." It's not even like, "Do you want to be in the club?" They were just like, "You're in it. You're in the club." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I joined. Then they give you like some free stuff. So like, I think I got some, like, I don't know. I just picked them. I picked them because it was funny. They gave you a choice of like things you could have. Like, there's like a hat and some other stuff. And I picked the socks because they're like high ankle socks that are like multicolored with glitter on them, and they say YouTube.
Nice.
You know, think like a rainbow vomited onto a unicorn or something. That's what they kind of look like. They look awful, but I just picked them because I have them with the hats. So I was like, let me just get the socks because I'm always losing socks. But hats are everywhere. So I've got like socks come in. They they pay for like my like cinema trips, and they did. Although I have to say some of the codes haven't been working, so it's embarrassing.
I was going to say,
they're like, "Oh, go and get a coffee on us," and you're like, "All right." So you go in with the QR code that they send you, and then you scan it, and the guy's like, "No, I'm sorry, this isn't legit." So sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes you end up buying like a frappuccino you don't really want. So.
I was going to say that could be a giveaway that maybe it's not quite so.
Yeah, no, I think it is legitimate. You know, I have had a bunch of stuff that has worked. So,
but that's like what was it? The original pyramid scheme guy who,
right.
P, doesn't it? Who kind of started giving people, as he got more people in, he used their money that they were investing to pay off the earlier people with just enough of a gain to kind of make them go, "Oh, this is working nicely." So then eventually, of course, they all dipped in more, and then he tried to disappear with all their savings.
I'm like 88% sure it's legit. So
I don't think you'll be able to go back in time.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't given over any bank details yet. I haven't given them my address, so I think I'm okay. Yeah.
When you go to the event, consider sewing an air tag into your underpants or something, so that Maya can track you. And if you suddenly don't become, there's no communication, that maybe she can get the police there before you're dismembered. And
but
that might not be the problem.
I'll be blogging the whole thing, so it'll be fine.
It might be when it comes back out, after the thing, that is completely brainwashed, and then just gets all his mates to sign up, and we start getting the invite through to the Makers Waffle email address, and
get me on the podcast again like next month, and if I'm like, do you want to be in the club, then come and
brain slug attached.
Sign up here. It will only cost you £10.
Right. And when you like press go on the camera, make sure you've both got your tinfoil hats on to like reflect any brain waves that I'm sending your way, any signals. Can't be too careful.
But you got to pay attention.
Blockers in the beard. That's what I've got it.
Okay.
Yeah, but have you seen Jeremy? Have you ever seen, because you got your in-ear headphones in today? Have you ever seen those? There was an episode of Doctor Who where basically the entire population of London was walking around with these earbuds in. Everyone had bought these fantastic earbuds that can enable you to learn stuff really quickly, and then they just brainwashed everyone. And they set a signal to all the earbuds at the same time, and everyone was just like walking around in like zombies, following kind of sort of commands.
I mean, in exactly the same in the same vein, there's a fantastic episode of Futurama that was along the same idea of the iPhone that was pushed into your eye. And would give you a heads-up display, and it was the same thing of like everyone got utterly hooked on it, and then was just all walking around in zombies, like 5-mile long queues for the next version of the iPhone. That they would...
Now, would you do that? I mean, assuming you weren't doing it because you'd lost an eye. Yeah, because if I lost an eye and somebody said, "Look, we've got this robotic eye that we can implant. It's going to give you a heads-up display." Yeah, cybernetic system, heads-up display, augmented reality, whatever. Yeah, I'll try that out. Assuming you weren't in a position of having lost an eye, would you?
100% without batting an eyelid. Absolutely, without a question. I would go full cyborg tomorrow if someone gave me that offer. I considered buying the RFID implants and all that kind of stuff. I just haven't got around to doing it because I'm too chicken shit for it. But
no, definitely not. No.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't. If I'd lost an eye, I'd just jump at it. Yeah, binocular vision back, augmented. Yeah, no problem at all. If somebody offered me a robotic spine tomorrow that would take away all my back problems, yeah, depending on the risk level. Yeah, I mean, the current best solution available in the UK for my back is fusion, multiple level fusion. And
as long as it's not Fusion 360, because that
wouldn't yeah, but there's a 60% success rate at the time when I was kind of last chatting to a consultant. 60% is not good enough for the risk. Yeah, that's a 40% chance, which includes paralysis. It's like, no, I'll manage until it gets. If it gets worse, then I'll go down that line. But
the further you get on, though, does that success percentage decrease
as I get older, or as it gets worse?
Both.
It's the balance of eventually it will become. The risk will be worth it because the situation that I'm in will make it.
That was what I was thinking. Is there's going to be a balancing point where there's a jumping off.
Plus, there's the indication that the technology will improve also through time.
That's Absolutely, the key one. Yeah. That's the one I'm hedging on. That's the one
So I'm waiting for robot lungs. I probably will end up needing robot eyes if I do any more welding.
They make these like visors that you can pull down over your face that kind of help that.
Yeah, but they still ruin your eyes, you know.
The welding masks.
Yeah. If you start even with the welding masks, like if you weld for like a couple of years, then you're going to probably need glasses.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, it's still. I know it shades it all, but you're still looking at a super bright thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like they wouldn't like you put your sunglasses on, you don't stare at the sun. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like what you're doing in a way with the welding mask. So like, it's good. It'll help you get through. But these, like, I have astigmatism, but I didn't need the glasses until I started welding, and then it was just like a noticeable difference, you know.
Interesting. Age will do it as well, mind.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Age will do it. Yeah, after I've got astigmatism too. So I've always had glasses for that. But until, oh crikey, probably about 10 years ago, I had to start getting reading glasses as well. Because otherwise I just had a single prescription. Then I had to get reading glasses, and now I'm on varifocals. And just, eyes get stiffer. Lenses get stiffer, and the muscles don't respond in quite the same way as you get older. But then supposedly they'll reach a level where everything will just stabilize generally. Unless there's kind of further degeneration of some sort.
I hope you're right.
That's
where
I'm just at that point.
Robot eyes, lungs, hands, like all the things that I'm going to lose from doing my job. Eventually I will need a robot version of. So
yeah. I'd say it's the singularity, isn't it? Which I can just take the contents of my brain and put it in a jar, and then not have to worry about the body. That'll be the ultimate goal for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So definitely some mechanical implants I would take. And if I lost an eye or got bad enough, my eyes got bad enough, I'd take cybernetic implants.
I'm not too keen on things that are like super invasive, but I'd be okay with stuff that was like, if they could figure out, like a clip-on type situation. Like if it just like strapped around your shoulders and then like took the weight or the pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was some like
like a power suit.
Yeah, the exoskeleton
version. Yeah. And I'm totally down for that. Yeah.
I mean, Festool. A few makers have been given the Festool arm support one. It's only the arms and shoulders.
I mean, I want it to be like. I think the technology is like way off. It seems to me like I want it to be way better before I'm like interested. Yeah. Like I see it and it's cool. Like when you see people like lifting like the heaviest weight ever with their like big metal suit on, but like I want something that I can like actually just wear like as a sleeve and go on the train with. Do you know what I mean? Like, I need to go and just like quickly nip into town. I don't want to be like, like Ripley from Alien or something, like in a big battle suit.
Actually, for going into town, I quite like the idea of that.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah,
Yellow power.
I
mean, around Bath, all the tourists, it could be beneficial, but probably some of the local residents of Bath might look down their noses at it, but.
Especially if you start knocking the corners off buildings and things.
Yeah, well, it might make lifting up sheets of plywood and stuff easier, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's why my back is wrecked. I'm lifting up sheet material. Yeah, it's get yourself a gorilla gripper.
Do you exercise, Andy?
Not enough.
Not enough. Yeah. So my back problems like they pretty much vanish when I'm exercising. And they come back almost immediately when I stop. So, like, and I'm talking like back, neck, and shoulder like activities, like presses, like loads of press ups,
squats,
and stuff, that kind of
squats
thing.
Yeah.
I can't work out right now because I've like busted my hand, but when I'm working out, my back situation is like I always forget it's a problem. I'm like, oh yeah, and then like I stop working out for a week, and then it comes back, and I'm like, oh yeah, I must go and do some more, weights or something.
Deadlifts and squats are not as good for my back as I would hope, but using a trap bar for deadlift is amazing.
Yeah, again, you got to find what's right for you.
Yeah. So I can't take too much impact.
Like I don't ever put the workout like when I work out. I don't ever put it in the vlog, and I don't follow like all of the like crazy fitness TikTok channels and stuff because. Everyone's saying like different stuff, and it's like, how do you know who to believe? There's so much information on that now. Where like one guy's saying you have to do it this way, and the other guy's saying don't do it like that. And there's like a reaction video where he's criticizing the guy, and then there's like a 2 tiers removed reaction video where the guy's like, actually that first guy was right, And it's like, what do you do with all that information? So now I only worry about the people I know in real life who like know what they're talking about. If they're here in the room, they say, oh. Your form's a bit poor there, then I'll listen to them. But I'm not doing dealing with
and finding people who will go, okay, right, for your body type, for your musculature at the moment, you need to do this type of exercise, or
Yeah.
you need to limit this, or because of that nature of that injury you've had in the past. Yeah, understanding the person. I think a good personal trainer. Yeah, there's lots of rubbish personal trainers.
You're trying to
Who will
suggest,
just-
Andy, that a good personal trainer will design the right plan for the person that's going to use it.
Should do, yes, and not just use the same generic plan for every single person that they get.
It's almost like humanity is a diverse population.
One can imagine, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
There is no one size fits all.
No.
There is no one pattern
there isn't.
template that works for every human being on the planet.
I'm
Otherwise
literally,
it would have been
I'm
found a
I'm
long
sat on one
time
of these
ago.
right now, so that my back doesn't hurt.
I have one of those too.
Yeah.
I've got one next to me.
There you
I'm on a changed over to a saddle stool.
Oh no way! Look at that.
Nice. I see. I'm on the. I went for the old Secret Labs, and that's worked quite well for me.
This chair that I'm in is not super comfortable, but it's the only one that doesn't squeak when I move, so I thought I'd better use it for this. Otherwise, like every 2 seconds, it'd be like, and that's pretty annoying.
We're back on the MacGyver in WD-40. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean these kinds of office chairs. Can you see them? These are the kind you buy them from places like Wilkinson's or B&M or B&Q. Like they're just the worst ever. They're just dreadful. They're dreadful things.
6 months shelf life.
Yeah, they always fall apart. You know, the bolts like always strip out, like they hold the arms on. Yeah, so
Yeah.
oh, hang on, put that back on there. There we go.
But yeah, you know how to fix things. So
That isn't for fixing. That's for throwing away and getting a new one. Some things are not worth fighting with. Sometimes it's better to start from zero. You know.
yeah, or save up and buy a Herman Miller.
Yeah, they went far down the wrong path, and then it's just not worth it anymore.
Yeah, the amount of Herman Millers you see, like on some of the subreddits, where you've got someone in the States gone, I nipped into Goodwill and picked up this Herman Miller for $4. Get nothing like that over here.
Yeah, I'd love one, but like the cheapest I've seen is about 400 quid, and then it needed replacement parts. You can get the replacement parts, but
I used to have a factory
another
down the road from my workshop, actually. I think it's closed now, but yeah, they used to be just around the road, just down the road from me. Well, I might have been the factory, might have been a depot, but either way, they had a big centre down in my town.
Very, very cool.
it's finding those things, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's great. It's just down the road, but yeah, knowing where those things are when you're not local to it sometimes can be tricky because they're not always on the internet.
No.
Yeah, it's you have to kind of pay close attention.
Yeah.
I've been practicing my segues. Actually, listening to Two-Thirds Focus this morning. They had James Malty and Steve House on this week instead of Jan.
Interesting.
Yeah, good episode. We both get mentioned, Jamie.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
not just for Maker's Waffle.
yeah, because I did have I did have Raz reach out to me the other day asking if I was available, which unfortunately I wasn't.
No, he didn't reach out to me. I don't know.
It was very last minute.
I think that's true. So this is the point, Josh, where we kind of ask what our guests and we do ourselves as well afterwards. What's been grabbing your attention lately? Whether it's past, present, or future, whether it's something you've been making, doing, watching, reading, whatever.
I feel this pressure to give you something sort of almost sophisticated, but the reality is that recently I'm really into like absolute like trash. It's like, I guess it's almost like trash TV, but on YouTube.
Okay.
So
I'm totally down for that.
Yeah, there's big channels that I don't didn't really know about until my girlfriend started sort of showing me them. And like this guy's like super famous, but I've been watching this Cody Co guy's videos recently, like a whole bunch of them. And he does like reactions to these like really like sort of tacky, cheesy YouTube channel, like game show experiments and stuff. It's like naked, like there's like a YouTube version of like Naked Attraction, and he'll like react to it, and it's
Fantastic.
I don't know why. It just cracks me up. I just like watching it. It's just funny. Sometimes you can do too much critical thinking, and you just need to switch it off.
I think you have a good point there. I mean, yeah, I sometimes watch flat Earth debunking videos. It's like I don't need to watch them.
Yeah,
because I know it's round, and I can prove that it's round, and I know the science behind it, and have complete faith in the science associated with astronomy.
Sometimes it's just fun to laugh at.
Sometimes just watching the idiocy of some of these people. I won't watch the flat Earth videos because I don't want to give them any view time.
Right.
So I'll watch the debunkers, who will then sort of show bits and bobs.
Have you seen the flat Earth? I think was it on Netflix, the flat Earth documentary?
Yeah,
some of my favorite documentaries ever. When they start to do the actual science and they start to find that it is round, and they're like, "Oh no, it might actually be round."
22.5 degrees,
right?
15 degrees per hour. Drift.
The laser, that was my favorite one when they did the laser.
Along the canal. Yeah,
and it was like, "Oh, maybe it is round." Don't tell anyone. It might be round.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Don't tell anyone. Everyone already knows.
Yeah, the rest of the population's way ahead of you
guys.
But it's just the scam, isn't it? It's they don't want anyone else in the flat Earth arena to know, because then they would go, "Oh no, you're either making it up." So either they get kicked out of their community, or their ability to scam people out of money by virtue of views, not necessarily, or kind of AdSense, suddenly disappears. Yeah, actually, sort of.
I hear they've still got members all around the globe as well, according to their own website.
A good one. I think I've seen it on a T-shirt. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. You've been, as we've already mentioned, you've been vlogging daily now for what, 57 days?
I think I'm on like 60 something. Hang on. Let's find out. How many am I on? I've not actually checked for a few days. What am I on to?
And it might be a week behind.
How do I check?
I don't know. You'd have to
around here somewhere. I've seen it before. Hang on, one sec. Bear with me. Playlist. 65. So tonight is episode 66. Yeah, 66.
That's a great achievement. I mean, just putting out a daily vlog for a week, I've known people who kind of found that too much. To go actually for over 2 months, that's a fantastic achievement. I mean, you're going to aim for the year, hopefully.
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, the habit's formed now, isn't it? That'll be.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too difficult. I mean, the vlog takes up about, on average, it's about 4 hours. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 6 or 8. It really just depends. The hardest videos to make are when nothing really happens all day. The ones where like something has happened are really easy. Like, it's weird. So like you end up with more footage, but it takes less time to edit it because there's more to throw away. So if we go out, so when we went out to the balloon event, for example, I had tons of footage from the whole day. So it's easy. I'm just like throwing stuff in. I'm like, okay, now the video is too long. I just need to like throw all that away, bin that, get rid of that, clip that out. That's easy. I love days like that because I know that the next. So I always edit. Today's video comes out tomorrow, if that makes sense. So I like those videos because when I have that day, I know that tomorrow's going to be easy because I know my edit's going to be like a 2-hour job. But when I'm sat there and I'm like, if I'm just doing emails and designing stuff on the computer for the entire day, I'm sat here shaking my head like, oh my god, I've got to I need to go down to the workshop and make something or do something or go into town because this is going to be the most boring thing ever to watch. And so
you're not tempted to do like the TV show thing where every now and then you do an episode that's just a recap episode of previous series, or you could do a recap episode of those days where you had extra footage.
Yeah, I've sort of toyed with those kinds of ideas. Maybe I don't want it to start to feel like a cop out, right? Like I don't want to have cop out episodes as much as possible. They're inevitable, really. There are occasions where I'm like, okay, you'll know the cop out episodes are the ones normally where I use my archive footage. So I've actually been kind of vlogging, I guess, for probably 15 years, 16 years, something like that. Where's that camera? I got this camera when I was 15. This camcorder, and I've just been filming like me and my friends like messing about that whole time, and then just sort of like I'm in an iron about whether or not to start doing a YouTube channel for like almost that entire time period. I'm like filming stuff. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel. Let me film this just in case, and then I just like never do it till like 2 months ago. I always said to my girlfriend, so I've been going out with Maya for about 4 years, and I kept saying to her like, Casey and I started his daily vlog on like his 30th birthday or something. Or it might have been 31, I can't remember. But it was like, the point is that there's like an event. It's like, okay, this is like a chapter almost. Let's begin a chapter. It's my birthday, right? And I always knew that my vlog would start on like a random Tuesday in the middle of the week. So I think it was a Wednesday. I think it ended up being a Wednesday, but yeah, I wasn't far off my prediction. I was like,
nice. Nothing wrong with a random Tuesday.
Yeah.
Milestone's a milestone, isn't it?
Yeah.
If that milestone is just a day that ends in the letter Y, then great.
Yeah. So I've been filming the whole time. It's just that, and I just said to Maya one day, like, I want to upload today. That's just, and then it began, and I'm kind of glad that I've waited though, because so a lot of the time you hear the advice like is like just start doing it like straight away.
Yeah,
and that's like really good advice. And I've given people that advice when they say to me like, how can I get my own like workshop started? And I'm like, if you're asking me, it's too late. You should have already started. Like that's always my retort is like, what are you talking about? You should have started yesterday. Like, why are you asking me now? You should have asked me years ago. But with the vlog, it was like at the time when those daily vlogs were like super popular, it just felt kind of like saturated, and people were doing like really good job too. Like people were doing such a good job with their vlogs, and I was like, I knew that I couldn't compete. And people always say like, just start and you'll get better as you go. But like I've made vlogs that are on my computer saved that have never been published, and they're just not up to scratch, but they are now. And now I feel like comfortable with them. Does that make sense? And so like I don't mind being like, 7 or 8 years behind the trend. Like I've sort of like in a way, what was nice about Casey's videos is he always had like archive footage, and I was like, that's so cool, and how do I explain this? I've kind of like sort of like purposely aged my footage, right? It's like my footage is like a wine that I'd made and then put in the cellar, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
So now it's vintage, but it wouldn't have been at the time if I'd started.
Yeah.
If I'd have started 15 years ago, it would have been impossible for me to have like archive footage. I had to wait. I had to make archive footage for 15 years before I could have any. So, yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. Total sense. Jamie, what's been grabbing your attention?
Driving this weekend, particularly. Did a trip up to see the mother yesterday. So yeah, nice little day out. Spent 5 hours on the M6. 2.5 each way, but no, it was, that's mostly been grabbing mine. Just general pottering, and then I'm trying to work my way through season 1 of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. So I managed to finish season 1 today. So I'm sort of almost up to date with where everyone was last year.
Cool.
So that's about where I've been. How about you, Andy?
We've been doing a lot of decluttering for the last couple of weeks, which is a lot of decluttering my stuff. I took, as I mentioned before, summer houses collapsing, etc., sheds full, etc., etc. So I think I took early last week, I took 1/4 ton of metal to the scrap merchants. Which I'll tell you now, iron, which most of it is pretty much worthless. 7 pence a kilo. But if you've got some copper, £5.50 a kilo at the moment. Oof. So yeah, had quite a lot of scrap copper that I'd kind of kept for doing projects with. Those projects hadn't happened in, I won't say how many years. So so that's given me a bit of money in the bank. So decluttering. Last weekend, I picked up a new to me 10-inch bandsaw to replace my 8-inch Aldi Work Zone bandsaw. So yeah, that's good. So today I built a new. I had to take my bandsaw cart apart because otherwise I'd be working at eye level with the new one. It's an Axminster one, so it's nice. So we built that today. Kind of talking about injuries, kind of a bit of a strain to my neck today, picking it up and sticking it on the cart after I built it. But it's
What is it? Not the same as you do?
No, it's about half my weight. It's about half my weight. Yeah, in fact, just slightly less than half my weight. Which is too much for me to be picking up. I did especially when you've got the cart is moving. It was on a dolly as well, so the dolly was moving, then that was moving. Yeah, that was a fun 30 seconds or so. But it's done and it's looking good. Just now got to get rid of some of the other crud in the tinkerage to make space to actually make things. But yeah, I've got 2 days this week where I've got nothing else booked. So hopefully I can get the tinkerage sorted because I kind of want to get following. Actually, a bit inspired by Josh here. Yeah, I actually want to get back into kind of sort of making videos again. So hopefully week after next, when school starts back and I have more control over my own time, I will be getting a few videos out of the way. I've got a few plans. Hopefully do a little bit of not vlogging necessarily, put some live streaming while I make stuff. I think I want to do a bit of that. So I've got a few things to make and do.
Well, you have got a lathe set up, so therefore you have to do some live streaming, surely.
Well, yeah, the lathe is the traditional live stream, but I've also got a 3018 CNC in a box to build. So that could get live streamed. So that's kind of sort of plan. So yeah, that's been grabbing my attention. Josh, where can people find you? Where's the best place for people to
friendly stalking?
I think if you just Google, hang on, before I say that, if you just Google Smithomatic, I think I just come up. Yeah, my business is all there. My YouTube channel's there. Yeah, my LinkedIn. Yeah, if you just Google Smithomatic, then everything comes up.
Cool. Well, links will of course be in the show notes on the YouTube descriptor as well.
Already there.
The post. Well, yeah, it should be. Yeah, because I think I put them there this morning. Brilliant. Right. Well, we're going to say goodbye to folks and pop over to the after show for the Patreons. So if you want to listen to the rest of the conversation, you'll have to sign up for the Patreon. Just patreon.com/makerswaffle. They get access to the after show. We don't do a pre-show as some podcasts do. We just have an after show. Last couple of the 2 weeks and the last 3 weeks, we've had 2 weeks off. They've had episodes of Thoughts on the Tinkerage to listen to. So
extra bonus content.
Yeah, that's a bit of bonus content, and that'll happen again next week because you're off next week, and it's the final weekend before school starts. So we tend to do big family stuff as well. So we're having another family weekend next week. So yeah, patrons will get something.
Usual scheduled programming after that.
Yeah, and then back to regular scheduling in September. Right. So, bye, folks. You two can say goodbye as well if you like.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. Yeah. I'm just going to work it out how